In a courtroom inside Brown County, Wisconsin, a young woman sat smiling like she was attending a show instead of facing one of the most horrifying murder cases the state had ever seen. She laughed at inappropriate moments. She made strange facial expressions toward the cameras. At one point, she even pointed her fingers at the judge like a gun and pretended to pull the trigger. The entire courtroom watched in disbelief. Was this woman truly mentally broken? Or was she performing for attention, trying to convince everyone she was insane enough to escape responsibility? Then came the moment that shocked even seasoned deputies. During a hearing, Taylor Schabusiness suddenly lunged across the courtroom and attacked her own defense attorney. Chairs crashed. Officers rushed forward. The courtroom exploded into chaos. It no longer felt like a murder trial. It felt like a disturbing performance staged by someone who had completely detached herself from reality. But behind the smirks and bizarre behavior was a crime so brutal that even experienced investigators struggled to describe it. And at the center of it all was one chilling sentence Taylor would repeat again and again. "You ever love something so much that you kill it?" That was how Taylor explained the thrill she felt during the murder of 24-year-old Shad Therion. To her, violence and affection had somehow become tangled together. But later jailhouse interviews revealed a different picture, a far more practical and ugly motive. Taylor claimed the argument began over $50 worth of methamphetamine. She also mentioned tensions connected to gang affiliations involving the Latin Kings and Satan disciples. Whatever the truth was, her tone remained disturbingly casual. She described Shad turning purple. She described blood coming from his mouth. She described strangulation the way someone might describe a boring story from work. No panic, no remorse, no emotional collapse. Just cold detachment. To understand how someone reaches that point, you have to go back years before the murder ever happened. In 2009, Taylor's life changed forever. She was only 12 years old when her mother suddenly died in her sleep. Her father discovered the body while the children were still upstairs, unaware their world had collapsed overnight. People close to the family later said Taylor was never the same afterward. The family relocated to Wisconsin, but instead of healing, Taylor became increasingly isolated. Her father eventually remarried, and according to testimony, Taylor struggled deeply with feelings of abandonment and disconnection. She reportedly spent much of her time alone in the basement. Then more tragedy followed. Her brother died in a motorcycle accident. Years later, after giving birth to her son Mateo, Taylor lost custody of him almost immediately. One emotional wound after another seemed to pile onto an already unstable mind. But according to many people who knew her, the true downward spiral began when Warren Schabusiness entered her life. Warren, her future husband, introduced Taylor to intravenous methamphetamine use. Her father later described the transformation in heartbreaking terms. "She became a stranger wearing my daughter's face." Taylor had already struggled with mental health problems for years. Diagnoses reportedly included bipolar disorder, psychosis, and schizophrenia-related symptoms. Court records showed multiple hospitalizations and even court-ordered medication requirements. Yet, despite all of that, the system never truly stabilized her condition. Her father would later blame both the healthcare and legal systems for failing to intervene before disaster struck. Experts at trial explained how methamphetamine can severely damage the frontal lobe of the brain, the region responsible for judgment, impulse control, and emotional regulation. Over time, Taylor's behavior became more chaotic, more reckless, and more disconnected from reality. Then came February 2022. The night began in an almost ordinary way. Taylor met up with friends. They smoked marijuana and injected methamphetamine together. Among them was Shad Therion, someone Taylor had known since middle school. They had dated on and off for years. Sometimes they were friends, sometimes more than friends. That long history created a dangerous level of trust between them. Nothing about the evening initially suggested what was coming. Around midnight, Taylor and Shad left together and headed to the basement of his mother's home. That basement would soon become one of the most horrifying crime scenes Wisconsin investigators had ever witnessed. According to Taylor's own confession, she wrapped a dog chain around Shad's neck and tightened it for several minutes. He struggled. He coughed blood. His face turned purple, and she kept going. Investigators later asked her directly whether she understood he was dying. She admitted she did. Even more disturbing, Taylor claimed she paused during the attack, became exhausted, drifted in and out of sleep, then woke up and continued mutilating the body. What happened next shocked even forensic experts. Using kitchen knives taken from the victim's own home, Taylor dismembered Shad's body piece by piece. Medical examiners later testified that the cuts showed unusual anatomical precision. Limbs had been separated at joints. Organs had been removed methodically. Investigators questioned whether she had previous experience with dismemberment. Taylor denied it. Yet her actions appeared horrifyingly organized. And still, her attitude remained almost emotionless. At one point, she casually told investigators she had planned to remove all the body parts, but became lazy because the process was messy and exhausting. Meanwhile, upstairs, Shad's mother Tara had no idea the horror unfolding beneath her feet. The next morning, she noticed a strange smell in the basement. Then she saw a bucket covered with a towel. Inside was the severed head of her son. The 911 call that followed became one of the most disturbing recordings in Wisconsin criminal history. Responding officers initially thought there had to be some mistake. Then they lifted the towel. What they found confirmed every nightmare. Within hours, police tracked Taylor to another apartment. Officers immediately noticed dried blood on her hands and clothing. Yet her behavior remained strangely calm. She joked, she laughed, she spoke casually with investigators as if discussing someone else's crime. The legal battle that followed centered on one question. Was Taylor Schabusiness legally insane? Defense experts argued that severe mental illness combined with methamphetamine psychosis had shattered her grip on reality. But court-appointed experts noticed something else: signs of malingering, intentional exaggeration, manipulation, performing symptoms to avoid responsibility. Prosecutors argued Taylor knew exactly what she was doing. They pointed to the methodical cleanup attempts, her detailed confession, and her shifting behavior depending on the audience around her. The courtroom became divided not only by horror, but by philosophy. Some people saw Taylor as pure evil. Others saw a mentally damaged woman destroyed by trauma, addiction, and systemic failure. Even Shad's own family reflected that divide. One of his relatives compared Taylor to Jeffrey Dahmer and condemned her as a monster who should never walk free again. But then Shad's father, Michael Thyrian, stunned the courtroom. Instead of speaking with hatred, he spoke about forgiveness. He acknowledged the unimaginable pain caused by the murder, yet said he hoped Taylor might someday find enough healing to re-enter society as a better person. Many people could barely believe what they were hearing. In the end, however, the verdict was clear. Taylor Schabusiness was found legally sane and guilty of first-degree intentional homicide, mutilating a corpse, and sexual assault. Judge Thomas Walsh later described the crime as an offense against human dignity itself. He said there were barely words strong enough to capture the horror of what had happened. The sentence was life in prison without parole. As it was read aloud, Taylor sat nearly expressionless. No tears, no visible regret, only silence. But perhaps the most disturbing part of this case is not just the violence itself. It is what Taylor Schabusiness represents. A warning about what can happen when unresolved trauma collides with severe addiction, untreated mental illness, and a complete loss of accountability. Some people commit crimes in desperation. Others commit crimes in rage. But Taylor seemed to turn violence into a performance. And that may be the most terrifying thing of all.